have arrived in Valhalla ahead of their defence of the trophy, which starts on Friday.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
It's going to be a very cloudy day all the way through, but so far most of us have managed to dodge the rain. I don't think there's that much out there, but you never know, you might catch a few light bursts every now and then. So all things considered, it's not the worst day around, but it is grey and it's not very warm. Top temperature 15 Celsius.
What's she on about? Most of us have managed to dodge the rain. She hasn't been outdoors for 6 hours.
Allan Beswick
she's not.
With you on the phone.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Should the railways be renationalised? Why do I ask? Well, simply because at the Liberal Democrat conference in Bournemouth, somebody called Mick Taylor, never heard of him unless he's that one in a pop group. Anyway, he's described as an activist. Some members... This is members of the Liberal Democrat Party. Some members are demanding that the privatised services be handed over to National Rail once their franchises have ended. You wouldn't want to nationalise it by buying them back, because that would be remarkably expensive. But of course, all the franchises have a life, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Many of them are at the middle, and when they reach the end, you could say, right, that's it. We're not renewing it. Thanks very much. It's been nice to know you, as they say. So do you think railways should be renationalised? Slowly catch your monkey. But do you? Some of the Lib Dems think they should. I suspect some of every party think they should. Well, perhaps not the Tories. That's kind of a anathema to them, isn't it? But do you think they should? 0161 228 2255. And was Harold Wilson right all along when he said he was going to nationalise the banks? Given what a pig's ear they've made of it, given what a pig's ear private enterprise has made of the banks, they're run by greedy crooks. Some of them, obviously, not all. But they're run by people who are driven almost entirely and exclusively by greed. Perhaps we'd be better off if he'd managed to convince the populace at large and nationalise them all those years ago. Anyway, there you are, just a few passing thoughts from today's crises. I hope the lady who listened yesterday and asked, I think it was Hillary, who asked whether her own investments would be affected by what has gone on in the United States. And I said, not a great deal. Well, some people are saying it's rather more than not a great deal. There will be some effect, and I suppose there will. We've already seen that thousands of people, 5,500, is it, are going to lose their jobs directly as a result of the Lehman Brothers collapse, which means 5,500 people won't be spending money in London. But it's very, very hard. The newspapers this morning all have a photograph of a woman, not the same woman, but in that time-honoured way of newspapers, none of them have a photograph of a man carrying out a box of his goodies. It's always a woman. And it's never an ugly old bag either. It's never some 16-stone blubber lard carrying a box out. It's usually a presentable lady carrying out her boxes. I mean, ideally, they want one with a top off so the sun could carry the story, but that's not yet been achieved, although you can do a lot with digital photography, I'm sure. But the newspapers, they always pick a pretty one, don't they? It's like when the A-level results are out. There's all these young girls receiving their A-levels. There's never some spotty Herbert with his cap on backwards, is there? I've got an A-level, mate. You want to fight? You never get that. No. You like another bottle of lager or cheap cider. You never get any of that. No, it's always some presentable young lady. Well, it's the same when the world goes to hell in the muck cart, as it appears to be doing at the moment. And they have these presentable young ladies carrying their boxes out. The thing to be in the city at the moment is a cardboard box salesman. You'd clean up, wouldn't you? By Jove, Skeet. There's 5,000 cardboard boxes they'd have to have. Any road. As they walk out. I mean, I feel sorry for the cleaners who lose their job because there'll be no hoovering to be done at Lehman's. And the secretaries, and possibly even the backroom accountants, the one that actually do the grunt work, paying the bills, or in the case of Lehman Brothers, not bothering to pay the bills at the end of the day. But the high-pressure sales wallers who talk you into buying a piece of paper that might be worth millions but is probably worth absolutely nothing. I don't feel sorry for those. These people who go into a restaurant and buy a £17,000 bottle of wine to have with their chips and egg or whatever the hell. It's very difficult to feel sorry for them. They have lived rather comfortably by the sword. They now die by the sword, and frankly, I feel sorry for the sword having to be put into such greedy pigs. But that's probably just me. 0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text talking about anything under the sun 07786 206 951.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Frank Carson, there was a time when you could understand what he'd say. But now, I've seen him interviewed. And he steals a gag, and you get 2 London hairs out, and he's screwed in the flag and it's sort of hiding it said, and it's in the Mother Superior, he said no.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Jimmy Cricket, come here this morning. I'm not saying my hotel room's small. When I put my key in the door, I broke a window. I flew in from Belfast. I'm not saying the plane was old, but I sat next to the rear gunner.
John Thompson's take on the world.
Puts a smile on your face, it has me.
Saturday from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Yeah, very good day to you. Story on the front page of the Evening News this morning. Dumped. Yeah, no, it's not some poor bloke's lost his girlfriend. No, it's a far more crucial dump than that. A probe. There's going to be a probe. I do like probes. I don't like being probed. You know, things put into you. But that's what a probe really is. It's something you stick into an orifice to have a look round. I know, but there you are. That's the word they've chosen to use. A probe, as 16,000 used tyres are found in a warehouse. A call for a clampdown on a new fly-tipping epidemic. Well, fly-tipping is an inevitable consequence of the stupid decision. And it's not the local authorities. I'm not having a go at any one of the 10 of our local authorities here. It's not the local authorities. It's the government. The government have decided that local authorities have to charge businesses and other organisations to dump their waste. Well, most businesses grumble, gripe, kick up a fuss, and frankly, well, they get very upset about it. But they pay it, because it's like your wages bill. You have to pay it. It's like the phone bill. If you're a business, you have to pay it. The electric bill. And you have to pay the cart away your rubbish bill. It's just one of those bills. That one, incidentally, was originally introduced, believe it or not, by Margaret Thatcher. I didn't disagree with everything she did at the time. Anyway, she introduced a nominal charge. Well, she made it a legal requirement for local authorities to charge businesses to take away waste. They used to do it for free. And then she made it that they had to charge. And many of the local authorities were dead set against it. I remember West Lancashire at the time charged them, I think it was £1 a week, which is almost nothing. And because they thought the policy was wrong. And frankly, it's hard to disagree with them now, because those businesses that are less than honest, well, what are they going to do? What else are they going to do? They're going to drive out into the countryside and tip it, just like you do, with a bed or a fridge or a washing machine. Make it difficult for people to dispose of their rubbish properly. Make it expensive for people to dispose of their rubbish properly. And those who are law-abiding will pay. Grumble, gripe, but pay. But those who are less concerned about morality and law will just dump it in the street and let somebody else clean it up. That's the inevitable consequence. It's this whole thing, isn't it? We make laws that the honourable will obey and the dishonourable will disobey. But unfortunately, the dishonourable, they're not by any means in the majority, they're in a tiny minority, but they have the ability to make an awful lot of noise, and in the case of waste disposal, an awful lot of mess. And you end up passing a law to protect the whole of society, but the inevitable, and who mean inevitable, the inevitable consequence of that law is that the whole of society is able to be injured by a minority group, which is extraordinary. such as 0161 228 2255. Colin from Bolton says, I acknowledge with interest your recent comment that there is no such thing in truth, as truth. It's my theory that there are two kinds of statements. Statement of fact, truth, and statement of opinion. It would be illogical to argue that most dogs don't have 4 legs, that grass is not green, or London is not the capital of England. So these are undoubtedly facts. However, to say that Manchester United are better than Chelsea, or these sausages are better than those ones, pertain to personal interest or preference, and such views are often distorted by impartiality and in any event are not definitive. It's also the case that some people are ignorantly arrogant and insist that their personal opinions are unquestionably conclusive. Well, let me point to the fly in your ointment, if I might, Colin. The reason you argue that most dogs have 4 legs and state that as a fact is because what you hit upon is a convention, and also a reality, but a convention. You see, if the person you're speaking to believes also that most dogs have 4 legs, you together will create the sensation that one is speaking the truth and the other is listening to the truth. But is it the truth? Well, in the case of 4 legs on the dog, on the face of it, yes. If, however, you have somebody listening to you who doesn't believe you and actually thinks the number 4 represents what we would call 3, and you say that most dogs have 4 legs, that person will think you are wrong. You will still be, by convention, accurate, factual, if you will, by convention. But will you be being truthful? That's the problem. I didn't say facts don't exist. No. No problem with that. I said truth doesn't exist, because truth is a perception. Now, if you can define truth to me and then convince me of its presence, I would agree. But for a thing to be deemed to be true, those saying it and those hearing it have to agree. But they can agree even if it's not factual. Would it still be true? Now, it seems easy when you're talking about the obvious conventions of numbers, but they are just conventions. You learn not that a dog has 4 legs. You observe that it has 1 at each corner. That's what you observe. That's what you see. There's a leg at each corner, if I might just quote Threlwell for a while. But there's a leg at each corner. But it is a learned convention that the leg at each corner, when counted with the arithmetical convention of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the convention says there are 4. But are there 4? 4 is just something we've learned. The easiest way to challenge the concept of truth when talking about the number of legs that dogs have is if I point at something and say to you, what colour is that? And you say blue, I probably know what you mean. Probably. But neither you nor I could define it, because there isn't a definition. There is a fact. There is a fact. It has a colour that most of us with 20/20 vision would recognise. It's only convention that has named it blue. Very difficult. Truth doesn't exist. Truth is a concept. Facts can be seen to be existing, but they can only be measured by convention. Very strange. I have lots of fun with the word truth. Lots and lots of fun. Ted in Moston says, this is the world economy. Nick Griffin predicted this last year. It was obvious from the birth of international capitalism in the 1950s that one day it would come crashing down. I feel rather sorry for the Americans. They don't realise they're no longer a superpower. We're used to being a second-rate power. They're not. At the moment, I'm not sure who will be the new world power. All the countries with economies based on international capitalism will suffer. At the moment, the only country with an economy based on nationalist economics is Russia. Therefore, I believe we could see a time in the not-too-distant future when Russia is the richest, most powerful country in the world. Ted, you may prove to be right. What I can't work out is why we're talking about capitalism crashing down. If we just... There's a headline today that I think... Where is it? I'm trying to find it. But we're all thinking about it's the end of the world. But a headline today said it's the biggest crash since the 1970s. That's just 30 years. Hardly major. Just gone 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. Rebecca Crabtree has the headlines.
There's been another increase in the annual rate of inflation. It rose to 4.7% last month, up from 4.4% in July. The increase was largely down to a rise in domestic energy bills. Families in the Hillgate area of Stockport are being advised to stay indoors following an industrial fire on Christie Street. Officers are asked to stay inside if you live nearby whilst the fire is being dealt with. Men wearing masks were involved in a fight outside a medical centre in Northenden last Thursday night. The four men started the fight by the side of a dark grey Audi A3, which was parked by Northenden Medical Centre on Palantine Road. It'll be rather cloudy with rain at times today. Your high 15 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, if you're using the trains at the moment or planning to, expect delays of up to 40 minutes on Arriva Trains Well services between Manchester Piccadilly and Chester because of a derailed freight train at Warrington Banquet. Please be aware, as I say, that delays are expected of up to 40 minutes, and at the moment we don't have an estimate as when normal service will resume, but it's also affecting Northern Rail services and Virgin Trains. As we heard in the news there, in Stockport, Hempshire Lane's been closed off because of a building fire at a nearby commercial property. So Hempshire Lane's been closed between Wellington Road South and Offerton Lane. That's also affecting St Mary's Way between Hempshire Lane and Spring Gardens. And the fire service and police are urging local residents to stay indoors and keep windows and doors closed. Don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
Good morning, Alan. I love these. Good morning, Alan. You are wrong. Look at The Guardian. The first 7 pages, mainly financial news, and not a dolly in sight. In fact, the front page has a picture of a lad, complete with baseball cap, lager, and a bottle of wine. Cheers, David in Crumpsall. Well, we always exclude The Guardian and other large lumpy papers from such thoughts. I was referring to the tabloids. The Guardian doesn't do rude pictures, heaven forfend. And they may well have 7 pages. Yeah, there's the boys shouting and waving. You're right, I can't find one woman. In fact, there's a whole street of blokes outside the building in London where Lehman Brothers had their headquarters, their British headquarters. So, yeah, but that's The Guardian, for crying out loud. The Guardian never allows the girls to get them out for the lads. It leaves that to the tabloids. Mike says, I've begun to disbelieve any statements that begin with "the truth is," or "the facts are." The truth is that those are the facts. 0161 228 2255. I've just heard the news that next year they're going to change the voting system in the Eurovision contest, says David. I just read that, meaning the UK has a chance of winning. That's a horrible thought, isn't it? And I thought that all the news at the moment was bad. I can feel my day being lifted, he said. I don't really think we want to win the Eurovision Song Contest, frankly. I think I'm perfectly happy not winning it and not having it take place on the soil. But I hasten to add, if it does come to Britain, if we did win it and therefore it came to Britain, then I, for one, would be campaigning to get it into Manchester. And David also says, I don't think it's feasible to rationalise all that we had, but I do think that we should take back into public renationalise all that we had, but I do think we should take back into public ownership the water industry. I'd also like Northern Rock to branch out of finance and enter gas and electricity supply field running alongside the other suppliers. They could begin with those eligible to winter fuel payments, which would go direct to our dual fuel accounts rather than pensioners living in Spain and other countries. I'd like to see a nationalised rail service running in conjunction. Indeed, David, it would be almost impossible now to renationalise everything. Of course it would. So much has gone. But ought we to embark upon the journey, to pardon the pun, by starting with the railways? Should the, what you might call the infrastructure of the nation, be nationally owned? There's a row going on at the moment in the United States, nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the finance market, really. There's a row going on at the moment because one of the main turnpikes, a turnpike in the United States, is those places where you enter. It's like when you're going down the M6 and you go on the privatised road. In America, the turnpike would be the place where you pay your money and go on to the privatised road, like the Severn Bridge, the Humber Bridge and all the rest of it. And there's a row going on about the privatisation of one of the turnpikes. It's an experiment. They're hoping that they'll discover from this that they're all available for sale. And the Americans are saying, some people are saying, we shouldn't do it. We should retain the national ownership of the nation's infrastructure. That's the row that's going on. Should that be the case here? Should we insist? I mean, America's an extraordinarily capitalist country. It's probably the most capitalist country on the planet. And yet, they still retain an awful lot of the infrastructure in state hands or local authority hands. Should we? 0161228 2255. Ken from Bolton said the rail companies, train operating companies, have a lifetime of their operation, but the owners of the trains are your friends, the banks. We would have to buy those back or get new rolling stock. Not a small job. If only the trains could be bought as a package along with the utilities. Well, that's it, isn't it? The trouble is that the money to buy all those things is no longer readily available because the money that was gained from selling them, remember, tell Sid, the money that was gained from selling them was spent on all sorts of things, like keeping men in red braces extraordinarily well paid so they could screw us blind and knacker the world economy. That's what they did. They gave the whole thing over. Absolutely everything went over to the city. Ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. And now some of those chickens are coming home to roost. If you put your life in the hands of those who are motivated by greed, you cannot be surprised. You've no right to be surprised when they screw up, because the difference between course of action A and course of action B is related only to how much commission will I get for each of them. I'll go with the one that pays the most. Extraordinary. The reason Nick Leeson, remember we've had another bank go to the wall in recent decades, the reason Nick Leeson was able to bring down Brown Brothers, was it Brown Brothers? Can't remember. Bearings, that was it, Bearings. He brought down Bearings. The reason he was able to do so because people were... We have a principle in journalism called too good to check. If you get an excellent story that you know will fall down if you examine it, you print it because it's too good to check, and you print it unchecked. We don't do that at the BBC. Or at least if we do, we find unemployment as the consequence, but no matter. And they have the same thing in the financial world. Yes, Nick Leeson was breaking all the rules. Yes, Nick Leeson was, should we say, a renegade. But hey, come on, he's making profit. And if he's making profit, He's making bonus, but so also are we, his bosses. We get profit too. So, all right, it might be wrong, it might be illegal, it might be skullduggery, it might even be stupid, but hey, it pays for the kids' education. Let's keep doing it. Let's not look too closely. His profit margin is too good to check. That's what happens if you run a system on greed, then greed it is. 0161 228 2255. You got something to say? Garrett said. Either via the telephone apparatus, you hide in the... Do you remember those days? It's not like that anymore. I think they were good days. Do you remember those days when the telephone was in the hall? The freezing cold hall? I don't, because we never had a telephone in those days. But you used to sit at the bottom of the stairs, apparently, and freeze your what's-names off whilst making a phone call. It did keep the bills down, well, at least in the winter, because it's too damn cold to do elsewise. 0161 228 2255. Keith said... Oh, hang on. Box in a box? I don't understand that. Keith sent me a picture of a naked man lying in a box, curled up. Well, it might not be a man, it might be a woman, it's hard to say. I think it's a reference to... Yes, it's a woman, isn't it? No, no, you can't tell from the position he or she is in. I do know the difference. Not well, but no, I seem to remember there's a difference. Vive la. Anyway, he sent me that. And I think it's because I was talking about women coming out of Lehman Brothers carrying boxes of their worldly goods. 0161 228 2255. There's a story in The Guardian today that caught my eye. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a man who you might think knows a thing or two about justice and the like, given what he set in train following the collapse of apartheid in South Africa. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the South African Nobel laureate, said yesterday that it was a possibility that Israel had committed a war crime when 18 Palestinians from a single family were killed by Israeli artillery shells in Gaza 2 years ago. Tutu said the Israeli attack, which hit the Athamna family house, showed a disproportionate and reckless disregard for Palestinian civilian life. The Archbishop presented his comments in a final report to the UN Human Rights Council, which had sent him to Gaza to investigate the killings at the Beit Hanun in November 2006. For 18 months, Israel did not grant the Archbishop or his team a visa. They entered Gaza in May this year on a rare crossing from Egypt. Archbishop Desmond Tutu says Israeli shelling in Gaza may have been a war crime. Do you think the authorities in Israel will give a damn? More to the point, do you think the international community, as it's called, will bring Israel to book? Do you think it will bring the leaders of Israel at the time to the war crimes tribunals? Of course it will not. Of course it will not. Why would it? What's in it for them? Well, that's how it works. Always. What's in it for them? Stuart, in Newell Green.
Alan, credit crunch.
Go on.
And we're talking about recession. I think we're sleepwalking into a slump that will make the Wall Street crash look like a teddy bear's picnic. I honestly think that. This morning, you've got the banks going bust. You've got the AIG, is it?
AIG, the insurance.
One of the largest insurance companies on the brink of going bump. It's just going to be a domino effect, and I think we're going to have a slump that will make the Wall Street crash of 1929 look like a teddy bear's picnic. What do you think?
I don't know enough about it, to be honest, to come to any kind of rational decision. My sensation is that we at the moment are in the early stages of, if what you say is the outcome, we're in the very early stages of it. One bank has gone to the wall. Frankly, it was an investment bank, and it's gone to the wall. It's no great shakes. Part of the reason it went to the wall, part of the reason, and this is reported quite heavily in the Financial Times this morning, is because the chief executive wouldn't sell at the price that others thought it was worth. So once again, the thing that brought down this particular bank, Lehman Brothers, was the greed of the chief executive. There were people, even in these rather straitened times, there were companies, 2 of them to be precise. One of them was a British bank, and another was an American bank, I think, the Bank of America, and both of them were trying to buy Lehman Brothers. Now, if
Barclays were trying to buy
Barclays, that was it. They're the British bank I was thinking of. Well, I always think of South Africa when I think of Barclays. But Barclays were trying to buy it, and the Bank of America. Now, they weren't prepared to pay what the chief executive of Lehman's was asking for, demanding. He valued the company at a greater price than they did. One suspects that what he was really doing was saying, no, we are too big to die, the American government will save us. So I don't need to accept your offer. I don't need to put your offer to my board. You can go to hell. I'll just sit here. I don't think he thought the Americans would let him go to the war. So I suspect the Americans let him go to the wall just to demonstrate to others that they need to sort this mess out themselves.
Yeah.
It's not going to be sorted out by state funding. I've forgotten his name, but I think it was Greenspan. Said this morning.
Retired,
I think he said this morning, look, states cannot guarantee every company's every asset. They just can't. So
and not fight wars, illegal wars as well, Alan.
Well, they can't guarantee every asset without the expense of war. They wouldn't be able to guarantee every asset of every company anyway. So I suspect what's going to happen is that the value that was clearly there and attractive to the Bank of America and Barclays is still there.
Yeah. Can I paraphrase the slogan, the motto of the British, the BBC? And I've seen it. I've been to Portman Square.
Go on.
It's a nation shall speak unto nation. That's not the total one. That's not the complete.
That is the
but
paraphrase. Yes.
Now we've got banks that are refusing to speak to banks, and I think we're heading for an almighty crash. Never mind a crunch.
Why? What makes you think that?
Well, it's like 1929, which I've just quoted. They got people, ordinary Joe Soaps, like you and me in America, to invest. And when they called in those investments, bang, they couldn't meet it. Capitalism, again, is built on promise.
Yes.
I promise to pay the bearer this note, so on and so forth. And it's based on confidence. And when people called in what was rightfully theirs, there was an almighty crash. The system crashed. Capitalism crashed.
Well, but it's probably the great thing about capitalism is it's a bit like I was talking about truth earlier. There is no such thing as true value. There's no such thing as true value. Value is what you can sell it for. Now, if you sell it and sell it and sell it and sell it, it constantly increases in value. And it gets to such a stage where the value is unsupportable. And what has to happen then is it has to fall. It has to fall apart to such an extent that a lot of people have lost a lot of paper money.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means that real people have lost real value remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen.
An example close to home, GMEX, or Central as it's now called.
Yeah.
Central Station. When it closed, it was owned by different people, and all they were doing was selling paper to the extent that the damn thing nearly fell down, and it took the GMC and etc. to rebuild it. But that's the problem. We're dealing in paper, Alan.
Well, we are dealing in paper.
I had an accountant friend, and we were selling a business, or we're going to move a business, and we talked about goodwill. He said, nebulous. You can't touch it.
Well, goodwill is nebulous, but that's what you buy when you buy a business. Buying the chattels of the business, if you like, the realities of the business, the buildings, the stock, that has a value, that has an intrinsic value. But what you actually buy is the goodwill. You buy the trading ability of that organisation. Of course you do.
One of the things that's caused a credit crunch, so-called, is the inability of banks to afford the support of mortgages. And we're in a society in Britain that is set great store by mortgages, and when the time comes for that debt to be called in, what's going to happen? Same with banking. Do you remember? Have you ever seen the film with? I think it's Gregory Peck, Mark Twain's $1 Million Bill.
Yes.
He had a note that he couldn't.
He couldn't break. He couldn't spend.
Couldn't spend it, but everybody was prepared to give him credit. I just think we're heading for a crash.
Well, we shall see. I hope you're wrong, but good to talk to you, Stuart. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers. David says, I imagine that many people who did very nicely out of Thatcher's privatisation, Sid and his friends, would be very pleased to hear today that their bank had been nationalised. Imagine now there is a queue forming outside Northern Rock to put their money in. Maybe the head of the queue will be your caller of yesterday who was concerned about her money. If I had more than 30 grand, I would put it in Northern Rock. When I said that 6 months ago, people laughed at me. Just gone 20 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Rebecca Crabtree.
Losses on stock markets have continued after the collapse of the US investment bank Lehman Brothers. European markets opened sharply lower for a second day, and shares in Japan and Hong Kong have also fallen by more than 5%. And if you live in the Hillgate area of Stockport, you're being warned to keep your windows and doors closed following a fire at a chemical factory this morning. The fire service do say, though, that the smoke isn't dangerous. And Greater Manchester Police will unveil their new helicopter today. The new chopper is equipped with the latest high-definition daylight and thermal imaging cameras and will be available to provide high-quality images of offenders in action. Manchester's weather cool and breezy today with a high of just 15 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Let's take a look firstly to the Stockport area, and Hempshaw Lane still closed off because of a building fire at a nearby commercial property. And Hempshaw Lane itself has been closed between Wellington Road South and Offerton Lane. It's also affecting numerous surrounding routes as well. Local residents have been urged to stay indoors and keep doors and windows closed. Aside from that, though, generally traffic on the motorways not doing too badly. M60 traffic coping well between 18 Simister all the way through towards junction 23 Ashton Underline, clockwise and anti-clockwise. And if you're using the trains, you've had some problems on Arriva Trains Well services between Chester and Manchester Piccadilly. Delays up to 30 minutes can be expected because of an earlier derailed freight train at Warrington Banquet. Don't forget, if you can update me, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Bill Wright.
The former Manchester City chairman, Francis Lee, has rejected claims that the takeover of the club is a bad thing for the game. The Abu Dhabi United Group, with resources running into the hundreds of billions, is in the process of buying City, but Lee says critics should be more worried about other takeovers.
We've seen 2 or 3 huge clubs being bought on debt. That's not good for the game, when the fans are having to stump up to pay the interest on the debt to buy the club. This is not a deal like this. This is a deal where they paid the cash, and when they buy a player, they'll pay the cash. It's as simple as that, because they can afford it. So if you've got 2 or 3 poor people running clubs and they can afford to do that, it's got to be good for the game.
Michael Carrick is almost certain to miss the start of Manchester United's Champions League defence. That's after suffering a foot injury at Liverpool on Saturday. Dimitar Berbatov was also a surprise absentee from the start of training this morning. His knock isn't thought to be as serious, though. Cristiano Ronaldo is expected to be on the bench against the Spaniards, while Paul Scholes is suspended after his sending off in the Super Cup. And despite appearing to have a relatively straightforward group, United's Ryan Giggs says they'll settle for maintaining their good home record, starting against Villarreal.
You know, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it does give you upper hand, especially because it's a home game as well. You know, you look to win your home games and maybe nick another victory away from home, and that usually enables you to qualify.
In tonight's game, Steven Gerrard and Fernando Torres should be fit for Liverpool's opener against Marseille. Chelsea play Bordeaux at Stamford Bridge, with Michael Ballack set to return. Didier Drogba is suspended, though, after his sending off in the final against United last season. Rochdale could end up losing their midfielder Will Buckley if he continues to put in performances like he did at Rotherham. Buckley shone in the 2-2 draw, and Dale boss Keith Hill admits he'll be difficult to hang on to.
he's a very good football player, and unfortunately when he plays like that and he gets better and better and better, he probably won't play for us for much longer. You know, he's got all the ability in the world, and if he harnesses that with hard work and endeavour and a bit of knowledge and know-how, then the world's his oyster.
Lancashire's cricketers won't be giving up on the Pro 40 League after their relegation to Division 2. Team manager Mike Watkinson says next season, which is the last of the Pro 40 League, will still be competitive.
Next season we won't be able to win the First Division Championship, but we'll be doing our damnedest to win the Second Division Championship. There's no promotion on the end of it, but even so, we're about improving, developing young players and winning games of cricket.
There's not long to go now until the Ryder Cup gets underway on Friday, and the two captains have been speaking as clean-up operations continue on the course following heavy storms. Nick Faldo, captain of the European team, says the events have been a long time coming and now he can't wait for it to begin.
I've been captain for about 3.5 years or something, and obviously 2 years, you know, is your official term, and it's kind of a little surreal this morning, like getting up and heading to the airport, and which is kind of normal, but then it's a very special day, so it's I'm really excited.
Lewis Hamilton admits he can't afford to make any more mistakes if he's to win his first Formula One title. The McLaren driver leads Ferrari's Felipe Massa by 1 point ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix, with 4 races now remaining, but he says this time he'll be better prepared than he was last year.
I'm going there this time, and I've experienced it before. I know it's not going to be a shock to the system. Having done already a season in Formula One, I think it prepared me for this year. So the last 4 races I feel a lot more comfortable in what I have to do and knowing what I have to do. But like I said, it's going to be very tough.
Stockport Paralympic swimmer Matt Walker says Beijing has been his best event ever. He's come away with 5 medals, including a gold in the 4x100 freestyle relay, and he says the standard has been incredibly high.
Nearly every race in the pool, this time around a world record went or a Paralympic record went, so it was pretty tough to win medals. If someone told me before coming out here I would win 5 medals, I would take their hand off.
And if the heroics of Great Britain's cyclists at the Olympics and Paralympics has got you interested in the sport, some of the medalists are back home and competing at the Manchester Velodrome tonight. It's the National Track Cycling Championships. Victoria Pendleton is hoping to be one of the stars on show, and it all gets underway at 7 o'clock.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Stockport County continue life in League One tonight. They take on Northampton at Edgeley Park. We'll have regular reports on the game from 7:45.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Alan, Porsche salesmen are the next group that are going to feel the pinch. Justin, my producer, said that, or not, as Porsche have just taken over Volkswagen. How sad do you have to be to know that? Do you believe in truth? No, sorry, this is anonymous. Do you believe it true that there is no such thing as truth? So he's trying to prove to me that there is truth. Well, the problem with your question, sir, ma'am, is the belief. Do you believe it true? If I believe it true, then as far as I'm concerned, it's true. But if I don't believe it's true, as far as I'm concerned, it's not true. But is it a fact? Well, you decide. Hi, Alan, says Lewis in Bolton. I can define truth. Remember when your mum said to you, tell me the truth? I think you'll find the next thing you said was the truth. No, the next thing I said was what I thought I could get her to believe. So she thought it was the truth. Therefore, for her, if I was lucky, it was. Walter in Romilly. Hiya, Walter.
Hello, Alan. Good day.
Good day, sir.
We're talking about credit and finance, you see. I mean, but as a nation, you know, we accept the profit motive, don't we? Indeed, we vote for it. So I don't really think we can start whinging if things don't go as well as what we expect them to do. That's my way I look at it.
I don't know whether anybody is whinging as a result.
Well, some people who've been on earlier are complaining about, well, they're not complaining, but they're saying that all is doom and gloom, we're heading for recession, we're heading for the biggest crash ever, etc., etc., etc. I don't think that's exactly logical, but we are going through a difficult period. But as I say, you know, we accept I mean, everybody's got a little bit of your greed, or you might call it prudence in them. I mean, we all go to the supermarkets for our food because it's cheaper. We've ignored the chap on the corner shop now, and they've gone out of business, and that's just commercial fact, isn't it?
It is commercial fact. I'm not altogether sure that people shop at supermarkets because it's cheaper. I think they shop at supermarkets because it's more convenient.
Well, possibly. Maybe a combination of the two.
Yeah, very likely a combination. I think you select which supermarket by price, but you choose the supermarket over wandering through the piddling rain with a series of bags on your arm, nowhere to park and paying for parking anyway.
Yeah, but you see, when their chief executive, whoever it might be, gets his £1 million bonus at Christmas for, having beaten last year's profits, we don't cause a riot, do we? We don't do what the Geordies are doing and go to the car park with our banners and say, the chairman must go out. We just say, oh, well, he's got a £1 million bonus. We accept it.
We do indeed do precisely that.
Nobody causes a riot,
Maybe that's what's required. Maybe we should do. I'm not the man to advocate it, given where I sit, but maybe that is the answer.
Yeah, but we don't do it.
It's high time we said.
We don't go marching down to the supermarket car park with banners and saying, John Smith out, the chief executive must go because he's received £1 million in bonuses for doing a good job for his company.
Well, the great problem always with capitalism is that the responsibility of any company is to maximise its profits for its shareholders.
Indeed.
And no other.
Indeed.
That's it.
That's it.
Whoever they screw to do that is perfectly legitimate because they're just doing their job.
Well, they're not necessarily screwing people. I mean, if you go to a supermarket, as we all do, I suppose, and you're getting value for money.
Oh, but they are screwing. I mean,
you're not being screwed.
No,
the
farmer is.
Pardon?
The producer is. The farmer is. The farmer's getting screwed. The only reason you can buy a lettuce for a penny is because some poor mug farmer is getting less than a penny for it.
Well, my simple answer would be stop farming.
That's what will happen eventually.
Go. You see, I think things will come full circle. As the price of fuel increases, you see, the people at the top in business, in the supermarkets chain, will say, well, hang on a minute, why can't we get our lettuce and tomatoes from Lincolnshire? Why do we have to go to Israel for them? Or Holland, you see?
Yes, but that sentence began with, as the price of fuel increases.
Yeah.
Do you know how much oil is at the moment?
It's damned expensive.
No, it's $80 a barrel. Do you know why?
No, I don't know why.
Because the arse fell out the market yesterday. Right. It's $80 a barrel. It was $140 a barrel a month ago, and now it's $80 a barrel. I remember when it went above $100 a barrel, the way it went up, it was going there anyway, but the way it went up was two blokes in America decided to pay $100 a barrel for oil, just so they could go on record as being the first people ever.
To do it.
It was about $99 at the time. And they said, let's buy some at 100, because then we're in history. Yeah. And they did, and everybody thought, well, it'll go back down again now, and because of the reason we all saw it went up. But the arse fell out the market yesterday, and it's now $80 a barrel.
Well, that's fine, that's good news. But will that reflect in the petrol prices at the pump? OK.
Have a good day, Walter.
Nice talking to you.
And you, sir.
Bye-bye.
01612282255. What an interestingly naive question. Will it reflect? Will it tell us like?
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
I believe in angels, but here's how to tell if one is near you. You look out for white feathers in unexpected places. There could be faint harp-like music or music in your ear.
Do you think?
Yeah, or a little voice telling you
I'd love to hear something like that.
Would you?
Eamon and Diane talking about what you're talking about.
I was on the bike. At that time in the morning, evidently, you're going to get there much quicker in a car. But say 8:30 to 9:30, I don't know, I reckon I might be able to beat you because you'd be sitting bumper to bumper in traffic.
That's
and
true.
I'd be able to zip through.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
The best way to get you to work.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
For as long as you have work to go to, I suppose we must say, with all the harbinger of doom we meet today. Ace says, "Hi, Alan, I was wondering about this money problem the world is having. Didn't something like this happen in the Bible? Jesus threw the moneylenders' tables over. Many a true word, mate," he says. "The meek will inherit the earth." Will the meek inherit the earth? There's been no sign of it thus far. The meek will get shafted by those who think they own the earth, is possibly more accurate. Malcolm in Offerton, perhaps Uncle Sam could sort out his bank by not spending all his money on bombing and murdering people in other countries, so he can steal their oil. Oh, by the way, are you allowed to plug the Stop the War Coalition march in Manchester this Saturday, at which the great Tony Benn will speak? I don't know whether I am or not. I've no idea, but there you are. Jimmy in Macclesfield. Hiya, Jimmy.
Hi, Alan. You all right, mate?
Not bad.
Just a quick one. My son had a car. He got rid of it in February, end of February, because he couldn't afford the tax. He took it to this local garage, it's like a scrapper garage type thing, and he said, "Leave everything with me, I'll sort it all out." He got a letter through then, a bit later, saying from a debt agency, saying he owed them whatever amount of money it was. Now I can't remember, but then he got onto them, the DVLA, and then they sent him a letter saying, more or less like saying, "Thank you for letting him know, for getting rid of the car, and ignore any letters what come because he's not the registered car holder," type thing. And he's getting a letter all the time now saying, off this debt agency, saying you owe us money. He got one this morning saying if it's not paid within so long, they're going to take him to court. I'm just wondering how he was fixed with that, that's all.
Well, OK, first thing, you say he wrote to the DVLA. At the time he parted with the car, did he send the relevant documentation to the DVLA that he'd disposed of it?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
So...
And they've sent him a letter back saying, "Thank you for letting them know."
So he now has a letter, which I hope he's still got.
He has, yeah.
Saying that the vehicle changed hands on such and such a date. It changed from him on such and such a date. He's got that letter.
That's right, yeah.
Don't lose it, it's quite important.
Right, I know he definitely has that, I know he has.
The debt collectors who are trying to collect money from him, if the debts relating to that vehicle have accrued since that date,
yeah,
they clearly aren't his, because he didn't have the vehicle after that time, and he did the requisite administration, if you like, to stop that. So that's that. Does he know when the debt was accrued?
Well, he will. I won't for 100% sure. But...
Well, that's what he needs to do. He needs to write... I mean, I presume he's been in touch with the debt-collecting people.
He's actually been on to them this morning. They just said, well, we'll just take you to court.
Well, that's fine. Let them do so. What he needs to do at this stage is to write to the debt collection people and say, in no uncertain terms, "I have not been the owner of this vehicle since this date.
Yeah.
And I have a letter from the DVLA stating exactly that. I am not responsible for any debts incurred via this vehicle since that date.
Right.
Any court action will be defended vigorously."
Right, okay.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
All right, good luck
Thanks
to
for
you.
that, Alan.
0161228 2255. It is important to remember when you dispose of a car that you do the paperwork. So many people forget, particularly when they scrap a car. And the bloke at the scrapyard says, "Don't worry, mate, I'll do that for you." Quite. No, you won't do that for me. I'll do that myself, thank you. Dave from Woodley. Hi, Alan. Could you explain why we're still paying the same price for fuel even though it's gone down in the market? Yes, it's a very, very simple explanation, and I don't know why you can't spot it for yourself, and that is the people that Margaret Thatcher sold the power companies to are shysters. They are nothing but nasty, money-grubbing, profit-driven, vile shysters. If you wanted some other explanation, you were looking under the wrong stone. That is why. That is why we are in the mess we are in, because we've handed over the value of our planet to dirty double-crossing no-good shysters.
I've got an X Factor special for you with Steve Brookstein and Nikki Evans. That's this afternoon from 2 with me, Diana Luke.
Obviously, that's an impartial, non-BBC opinion, but it just about covers it. Let's face it, we're nationalised. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk.
95.1 FM.
DAB Digital Radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, inflation rises that could affect you. And if you live in Stockport, you're being warned to close your doors and windows following a fire at a chemical factory.
Carrick is set to miss United's Champions League opener.
It's a cool and cloudy afternoon with outbreaks of light rain and a high of 15 Celsius.
And delays of 30 minutes can be expected on Arriva Trains Wales services, Northern Rail and Virgin Trains between Chester and Manchester Piccadilly because of an early derailed freight train at Warrington Banquet.
Good afternoon, I'm Rebecca Crabtree. There's been another increase in the annual rate of inflation. It rose to 4.7% last month, up from 4.4% in July. The increase was largely down to a rise in domestic energy bills. People living near a fire which sent plumes of black smoke across Stockport this morning are being advised to stay indoors. It broke out at the European Colour Factory on Hempshire Lane soon after 8 o'clock. Fire crews have now got it under control and the smoke has subsided. Gary Bristow is the factory manager.
Sometime around about 7:45 this morning, one of our operators noticed sparks and flame. We evacuated immediately. Everyone got out safely, and the fire developed from there in our extraction system and has spread to the roof.
Labour's ruling body is set for a showdown over Gordon Brown's leadership. An unnamed government minister is the latest to speak out, warning he may resign because he's so unhappy with the Prime Minister's performance. But the North West Labour MEP Gary Titley, who's on the party's National Executive Committee, says there's no reason why nomination papers should be sent to MPs ahead of next week's annual conference.
We had a leadership contest last year. People wanted a contest, they should have put up or shut up. Inevitably, in any party, there will be some people who are discontented, just for some people discontented about Tony Blair. But I hear some of the same people saying Tony Blair should go, saying Gordon Brown should go. And whoever we selected as leader, if we had a leadership contest, no doubt in 6 months' time they'll be saying they should go.
Now, you may remember back in June the tragic story of 16-year-old Sophie Finnecane from Gorton. She was left in a coma after being shot in the head, but she's made a remarkable recovery since then, and now Sophie and her family are asking that people of all faiths come together at Gorton Monastery and commit to ending violence in Manchester. The Reverend David Gray says it's an event Sophie's looking forward to.
Sophie asked me yesterday, is anybody famous going to be there? And I said to her, one of the most famous people in Manchester is going to be present. And she said, who's that? And I said, Sophie Finnecane. And she said, who's that? Oh, that's me.
Now, when the Imperial War Museum North opened, it was hoped it would regenerate the area of the Trafford side of the quays. But the distinctive building, which is home to the museum, still stands out in what is a generally very industrial area. Now there are new plans to transform the surrounding waterside. Jim Forrester is the director of the Imperial War Museum North.
When we first opened in 2002, we never really developed that land too much. We wanted it to keep it fairly plain. We wanted to see what we were going to use it for, to be honest. And over the years, we found out what our visitors would like, what they'd want, and I want to take the museum slightly outside the building and use the land around it to create a number of different spaces. But one of the main features of the museum is a sense of memorial and commemoration for people who have contributed to wars since 1914.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Bill Rice.
Michael Carrick is almost certain to miss the start of Manchester United's Champions League defence against Villarreal. He missed training today after suffering a foot injury at Liverpool on Saturday. Dimitar Berbatov was also a surprise absentee. His knock isn't thought to be as serious, though. Cristiano Ronaldo is expected to be on the bench for tomorrow night's game. Paul Scholes is suspended, though, after his sending off in the Super Cup. Tonight, Chelsea play Bordeaux, while Liverpool go to Marseille. The former Manchester City chairman, Francis Lee, has rejected claims that the takeover of the club is a bad thing for the game. The Abu Dhabi United Group, with resources running into the hundreds of billions, is in the process of buying City, but Lee says critics should be more worried about clubs being bought on debt. Lewis Hamilton admits that he cannot afford to make any more mistakes if he's to win his first Formula One title, and Oldham Roughheads have signed goal-kicking winger Andy Ballard from Salford on a one-year contract.
I could improve Lewis Hamilton's chances overnight just by giving him a map of the course and saying, stay on the black bits, the green stuff is called grass, it's not for you.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Eno Erator.
Well, it's a cloudy afternoon with outbreaks of rain. And when that rain does appear, it's not particularly heavy, but it will be persistent for a time. And the southeasterly winds are so light that it really won't be able to push those clouds away to make room for the sun. So it's a cool afternoon with temperatures peaking at a high of 15 Celsius.
Allan Beswick, halfway through your workday.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Television chef Antonio Carluccio has been admitted to the Priory Clinic after stabbing himself in the chest. I once had dinner at his restaurant in the Trafford Centre and, frankly, felt much the same way.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Peter, in High.
Hello,
Hiya.
Alan.
You all right?
Not so bad.
Good.
I'm just curious, or trying to put my point forward, about all these people what are paid into the airline what's just gone crack.
Yeah.
Right? Mr. XL, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Darling, the Exchequer,
Yeah.
has had his money, the VAT. The Customs of Excise have had theirs. The travel agency have had their little bit. Where is the punters? Same as you, me, the other people. They're going to get sweet FA. Nothing, or maybe get 5%. It's better than robbing a bank.
Well,
isn't it?
Well, yeah.
It's just robbing a bank.
I suppose it is in a way.
Could you imagine? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could you imagine Al Capone, Babyface Nelson, and them people saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've took you money." They would have blew the heads off.
No, well, they would have needed blown their heads off. The trouble is that in order to run an airline, you run it on credit. And so when the cash comes in, all it does is pay off last year's bills.
Yeah, I can understand that, but you know and I know, I was in business a long time ago. I know if you got hardship in your business, you know 12 months before, because the accountant comes and says, look, you've either got to sell up or do something about it. These people know, they never go for the directors, the chairman. They are sitting in the £1 million houses with the Lamborghinis and yachts all abroad. They don't go for them. But which they should do, start jailing a few. XL, now there's another one just gone. Now there's 2 more going to go. What's the government doing about it? Not a damn thing. As long as they get their import...
What do you think the government can do about it?
Well, the government, for my money, I reckon they should get the DTI, the jobs properly, what they get paid for, and as soon as these airlines go bump, go right for the managing directors and go right to the chairman, say, right, we're confiscating all your money, all your houses and all your assets. No matter where they say they've got them from.
But they can't do that. The law prevails against that, and in the capitalist system has to. Because if you said to an individual, you will be liable to pay the debts of the company yourself if the company goes bust, then you immediately lose the protection of limited companies. You can't have limited companies.
A limited company is hiding against the tax people, because if you're a limited company, you've got shareholders, but you've already got your £1 million id. It's your shareholders what suffer.
Well, they've not necessarily got your £1 million hidden from the shareholders.
No, but to the tax people they have.
If you're a limited company, what you are able to do is you're able to say to the world at large, would you like to buy a share of this business? And I will use the money to develop the business. And if the business goes belly up, then you will lose your money. And a group that has not been mentioned yet about of Excel, the people who have also lost their money are all the people who have shares in Excel. They've lost their money.
I understand that. But when you go to the airport, same as like you pay up next week or last week, you go to the airport and say, you're sorry, I've no plane for you. But where's your £3,000 gone?
Well, your £3,000, I'm afraid, has gone into the business. The business was suddenly, in the case of Excel, suddenly, instead of running at a profit, it was running at a loss. It is interesting, very interesting, that the German and the French versions, they're part of a large conglomerate, but independent companies, have not gone bust. Do you know the reason why?
I couldn't tell you,
I'll tell you. The reason Excel in Germany and Excel, its equivalent, in France, has not gone bust is because, whereas you say, where is my £3,000 for my holiday? Well, if you paid Excel £3,000 or 300 quid, it doesn't matter, for a holiday, they take your money off you. Correct? They then pay their staff and all those other things.
Correct.
And then they get bills in that are £350. The cost of giving you your £300 holiday to them, because of oil price changes and other things, is £350. They couldn't have known that at the time they took your £300. Now, if this was France, they would write to you and say, I'm sorry, your £300 holiday has just gone up to £350. If they were in Germany, they would write and say in German, your £300 holiday has just gone up to £350.
But that's fair enough,
in the United Kingdom, they are not allowed to write to you and say the holiday we sold you at £300 has now gone up to £350. They have to say, the holiday's 300 quid. You've paid 300 quid. We will do our best to give you the holiday. But because there are 100,000 of you, we're now £100,050 out of pocket, we go to the wall. So the protection we get in this country, the consumer protection that says once you've paid the bill, they cannot up the price, they don't get in Germany. They don't get in Germany. They don't get in France. But that means that in Germany and France, the company doesn't go bust. But what happens is people have to pay more for a holiday they've already negotiated the price of.
I can understand that. But that's not bad, 50 quid you just quoted. That's not bad.
Well, I'm inventing the figures.
I can't know what you mean.
It could be considerably more.
I can understand that.
But if you're somebody, and this isn't in any way a criticism of them, but if you're somebody that can afford a holiday once a year because they are £350, because they're £300, and somebody comes to you and says, look, I need another 50 quid, there are many people paying £300 for a holiday who would have to say, then I can't go.
That certainly tried it with me, and I refused it. I said, no, you're not getting it.
Right.
I just walked away. I said, no, I'm sorry. You tried with me when you want me to.
But did you lose out on the 300?
No, I got my money back.
You got your money back?
They come to me and they said, owing to such a thing, it was about £28 a person. So I politely turned on and said, get stuffed.
Which is always, that's the politest I ever managed.
No, that's right. So I just said, get stuff, and I cancelled, and I was paying by cheque, and I cancelled the cheque, so they got knocked.
All right, well,
and that is the only way to do it.
Well, it might be the only way to do it, but once you've parted with the money...
Oh, yes, you've parted with Sterling, you've had it.
If you've parted with the money...
I understand.
And we're talking here, I mean, believe it or not, I have just paid a sum of money, not a small sum by any means, 50% of the cost of renting a house in Ireland in July next year.
Yes.
Now, if I back out of that...
You've lost your money.
I've lost my money. There's no way... I mean, I could have... It was a bank transfer or whatever, but I could cancel the cheque. But I'm not going to cancel it now. No. But I've got until July next year.
To think about it.
to think about it, and I'm sure as hell I'm not going. But the point I'm making is we buy our holidays so far in advance.
Oh, yes, I can understand that.
So once you've paid the money over, you've written the cheque, you've only got a week, if you like. If you're going to stop the cheque, you've got a week.
But what I'm trying to say to you, I know you've explained, but like I say, Mr. Darlington, it's had his, hasn't it? And the government's had theirs, so they couldn't care less.
Well, I suspect he's not had it yet.
Well, he'll get it. Put it that way, he'll get it. Because them planes won't leave England till he gets it. They belong to the German company.
Well, there is one of the. You know how I like conspiracy theories.
I know that.
One of the reasons I read the other day. One of the reasons there are so many XL aircraft abroad.
Yeah.
Is because if they're abroad...
You can't touch them.
They can't touch them.
I know this. I know. Friends of mine have got wagons running abroad, and you won't fetch them into England because they come over here. They're going to get stoned.
They'll have them.
I know quite a few. I know quite a few lads who's got them. I said, come over here, they say, you must be joking. And they're going in a legal business, but they won't come over here. They're all registered abroad. Which you can't blame them, can you?
Well, blame is not really a word I'm good with. No. Have a good day, Peter.
Okay, Alan.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. 0161228 2255. If you've something to say, that's good. Cheers. Andrew in Warrington says, Monsieur Alain, crude oil is $90 per barrel. I think I said it was 80. It's $90 a barrel. But the point still stands. Thank you for that correction. I can't carry every bit of information in my head. But, OK, it's 90, not 80. But the reality is that it's nowhere near the 140. Everybody expecting to go to 160. The credit crunch has crunched the price of oil back down to 90. Indeed, all that loft insulation were yet proved to be unnecessary. And just imagine how it would have been if Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling had agreed to give everybody £10,000 to offset the cost of oil and gas, given that oil and gas is now cheaper than when we first started to panic. Neil in Bebington, Alan, capitalisation is the elimination of all competition. Well, certainly that's the objective of capitalisation. Rick in Bolton, Alan, you keep... Beswick, he doesn't call me Alan, and rightly so. Beswick, you keep saying the bankers are greedy. What is the difference from them to yourself? All of mankind is greed-driven, unfortunately. That's why people are dying from hunger all over the world. Do you give a toss when you collect your £1,500 paycheck at the end of the week? No, if I collect a £1,500 paycheck, I organise a party, dance in the street and run naked through the cold. Surely the debts... Mike says, surely the debts on the caller's car may have been due to the purchase and therefore not excused when the car is sold. He's referring to Jimmy, who spoke earlier. You would be correct in that, Mike, if that is where the debts are from. That is why I said you must find out when the debts were accrued. If the debts were accrued after the car was sold, then clearly they're not the responsibility of someone who is no longer the owner of it. If, however, they were accrued before the car was sold, then they are the responsibility of the people who accrued them. That may well be Jimmy's son. We don't know. Which is why I spoke to him in the way I did and said the things I said. Keith says, Alan, is it one-way traffic in Germany and France? If they say it's going up by £50, can the buyer say I can't afford it and back out of the deal with no loss? Keith, I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid. I don't know. So, there. So perhaps somebody else can tell us. 0161 228 2255. You're on form today, says Malcolm, and thanks for mentioning that rally, and then gives me more details. Gordon Brown's staying at a hotel on the route. We plan to make enough noise when we pass to make our feelings known. Well, you will indeed, and there seems to be a Stop the War coalition march each time the Labour Party comes here. Well, that's fair. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's fine. We're perfectly at liberty and willing and ready to take your call and pass it on to the world at large. Listen to this for a train story. Chris in Middleton. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll just flog this bit of Cyprus off and stop Cheeseman gloating, and then we'll be all right.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester.
Manchester City's next stop in the UEFA Cup is Cyprus, and they only just squeezed through the last round in Denmark.
Veteran Choluka strides forward and strokes it home. They've done it the hard way, coming back in the game in the very last second.
seconds. We'll be there with the Blues from the moment they arrive until after Thursday's game.
I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm in a fantastic position, and it's up to myself and my staff to make sure that this opportunity is fulfilled.
The all-new Manchester Sports, following the Blues everywhere they play.
Follow Manchester City in the UEFA Cup this Thursday at 5:40. BBC Radio Manchester.
I just read in the paper this morning, I think it was in the Telegraph, but I read in the paper that Thaksin Shinawatра's brother-in-law has just been selected by a political party in Thailand to he's the former Prime Minister, I think, to stand as Premier. It's a it's a bit nepotic, isn't it? Or it appears to be a little bit nepotic, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, there you are. Thaksin Shinawatра's brother-in-law has been selected by a political party in Thailand to stand for the role of Premier, presumably when they have an election. I don't think they do it with the gun, although they've had a bit of that in the past. It's 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Rebecca Crabtree.
The Governor of the Bank of England's letter to the Chancellor explaining why inflation is so far above its 2% target has been published. In it, Mervyn King points to temporary global factors and says he expects inflation to peak soon at around 5% before falling sharply in 2009. People living near a fire which sent plumes of black smoke across Stockport this morning are being advised to stay indoors. It broke out at the European Colour Factory on Hempshire Lane just after 8 o'clock. And plans to develop the land alongside the Imperial War Museum North are being considered. Managers at the museum say they'd like to create a memorial garden. Manchester's weather cool and windy this afternoon with highs of 15 Celsius.
Dear God, how many more memorial gardens do we need? There's not going to be enough people left to get around with their poppy on Remembrance Sunday the way things are going.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, we just had news through on the travel line of an accident on Warrington Road in Wigan. The vehicles hit a tree that's causing congestion on the inside lane of the carriageway from the M6 to Junction 25 through to Grange Avenue in that direction. And now to Stockport in Hempshire Lane, still closed in both directions because of a nearby fire at a commercial property. It's been closed between Wellington Road South and Offerton Lane, and the fire service and police are urging residents to stay indoors and keep doors and windows closed. And if you're using public transport, delays of 30 minutes are possible on Arriva Trains Wales, Northern Rail and Virgin Trains between Chester and Manchester Piccadilly due to an early derailed freight train at Warrington Banquet. Now don't forget, if you can update me further, then call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
The Labour Party let it be known this morning that they've decided not to send out nominations for an election, a leadership election this time round. And the Health Secretary, Alan Johnson, has urged the party to rally behind the Prime Minister. He didn't say, ideally without a dagger. He said this: I believe we need unity in the party, and I believe the whole history of this party shows that the reason why in the 20th century Labour governments were short interludes in Conservative rule, and why we ended up in the situation we did in 97 with so much to do, is because we were disunited in the past, and unity is essential in a political party. Well, of course, lemmings are united as they all go over the cliff. It doesn't mean it's a wise move. You only unite with those with which you agree. There's little point in uniting with people who you think are getting it wrong. But obviously we don't expect anyone to know that. Peter in Haywood. Alan, I must point out to the person that texted in about the Stop the War campaign that it's easy to be a pacifist when you live in a free country as we do. I wonder how many female members there are of the Afghanistan branch of the Stop the War campaign. Well, yeah, it is easy to be a pacifist when you live in a free country, as you suggest we do, but I believe the Stop the War campaign isn't, as I understand it, a pacifist organisation. That would be a Stop All War campaign. This is a Stop the War campaign, and you don't have to be a pacifist to know that a particular war is wrong. And the people in the Stop the War campaign believe that this war in Iraq is wrong. The war in Afghanistan, I think they believe, is wrong. They don't necessarily believe, all their members don't necessarily believe that all war is wrong. But I suspect they would lean towards the way that perhaps one should have a war in defence. But a war in attack is wrong. I don't know. It's 1:25. You tell me, perhaps. Chris in Middleton says, and I did say I would read his letter, this is a story of a train journey. My son is stationed in Portsmouth with his regiment and was home on weekend leave, returning last Sunday. His mother and I went to Piccadilly Station to see him off on his 4-hour, 41-minute journey. We were 15 minutes early for the train, which was at the platform, but the train was that full, it was like a scene from the Indian subcontinent, with the number of travellers already crammed onto it. Our lad had to squeeze in through the door with his kit bag, being careful not to tread on passengers with his 6'4" frame already sitting on the floor on their bags. All right, he's a fit young man, but how would my wife and I feel? We're both in our 50s, and we're having to travel like this in return for £88.40. When we go down to Portsmouth for his passing out parade as a military policeman. It looks like I'll be driving again. £176.80 to travel like tramps, sitting on the floor for nearly 5 hours, is not my idea of successful privatisation. Well, Chris, you're using the wrong measure. The judgment as to whether a privatisation is successful or not has nothing to do with the service provided, and has everything to do with whether the organisation that now owns it makes a profit. And I think you may find that they do. The state of the Labour Party at the moment brings to mind words like rats and sinking ships. And King Rat, oh dear, the King Rat on this occasion is Graham Stringer, says David. Well, Graham Stringer has certainly been forthright in his criticism of Gordon Brown and the leadership of the Labour Party, but what is one to do, whether you are for or against the Prime Minister? And frankly, I don't hear many people outside of the Cabinet saying they are for him. I don't hear any backbench Labour MPs standing up and saying Gordon Brown is the best man for the job. There are some backbench Labour MPs who sit on their lips and say nothing. But I talked to a fair few MPs. I bumped into Tony Lloyd just a few moments ago. He's the chairman of the party, Labour MP for Manchester Central. On my way into the studio, he was lurking about, and I had a chat with him, and he was saying Gordon Brown's the man for the job. That's his job. That's what he's supposed to say. But I don't hear many... Tony's not... I mean, he is a backbencher, but he's chairman of the party, so that sort of negates his backbencherness. But I don't hear any Labour backbenchers saying that Gordon Brown is the man for the job. I hear people, as I say, all the time on the news, cabinet members and the like, saying that Gordon Brown's the man we should all rally behind. Of course they say that. Their jobs depend on it. But they might believe it too. You never know. But I can't think of a backbencher that says the same thing. I could probably name 15 who I've spoken to in the past fortnight who all say it's time he went. Not all of them say it publicly, but I could name 15 or so. Paul in Salford. Hiya, Paul.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, mate.
I just want to... I'm sympathising with all the people who are stranded in various countries in the world, and the only way they can get back is to pay again. But I'm a bit confused here, but I wonder who paid the guy who was recently locked up in Thailand, who did a couple of years in prison. I wonder who paid for his flight all over the Far East, and eventually he decided that the only option left open was to come back here. I wonder who paid for that lot.
I think I'm well able to tell you.
Go on, sir.
He did.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure. But I suspect that is the case. Certainly the British government won't have paid. They have no responsibility to pay and would not have paid. It might be that because he was originally deported from Vietnam, that flight of his deportation might, I doubt it, but might have been paid by Vietnam, the Vietnamese government. It might have been. But when he landed in, I've forgotten where it was he landed now, but when he landed and disembarked and said, I'm going no further, I suspect from that moment on he was spending his own money.
Yeah, I just got the feeling, or the suspicion that if they wanted him out of it so desperately to float him back here, and that somebody's paid for it other than him, even though he's worth £6 million or whatever.
Well, when one is deported, the country doing the deportation pays. That's the principle. They pay. But of course, they only pay to put you on the aircraft and get you out of the country. If you then leave the aircraft in another country, the responsibility ceases to be the deporting country. But because he never touched non-protected land, in other words, he never left the airport, he was all the time within the aegis of international travel, so he was always a passenger. He never stepped foot into the land proper. He never went through immigration in the land in which he skulked for a while. I suspect that he was paying for himself at that point. And of course, had he instead said, well, that's fine, I'm going back to Vietnam, Vietnam would have locked him up, without a doubt. So he might even have been paying the very first air journey out of Vietnam, because I suspect Vietnam would have sent him cattle class, not business class, which is what he was supposedly travelling. But he almost certainly will have paid it himself. And one thing's for sure, the British government won't have been paying. You and me wouldn't have been paying.
No. But I suspect he didn't spend his time whiling away in some hotel lobby somewhere, pleading with somebody to lend him some money to get out of it, you know. They wanted him out.
Well, he never went anywhere near a hotel, let alone a hotel lobby. But no, he didn't. He didn't plead with anybody. He pleaded with all the immigration authorities and the like, and he had people working on his behalf, trying to get him the right of entry to various countries. But in fact, if you think about it, he suffered more or less the same privation, if that's the right word, of XL passengers, in that he had to live in an airport terminal for a couple of days.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that he invested his £6 million in the bank that recently went bust.
Well, you must hope for what you wish. I suspect he didn't. Rumour has it that his investments from his pop career earn him something like £350,000 a year.
Funny old world, isn't it, mate?
Well, he was a pop star. They make a lot of money if they're successful. And
it's a funny old world.
Well, it is indeed a funny old world. I mean, the subject you're dancing around, you may be interested in the announcement yesterday where parents will have the right to check whether somebody who an adult has close contact with their children, whether they are registered sex offenders or not. Some people are describing it as Sarah's Law, which is probably not correct. But what do you think of that? That if you've got a child and that child is being looked after by a babysitter or some other individual of that kind, then you're entitled to ask the authorities. This only applies in certain counties at the moment because it's a trial, but ask the authorities whether that individual has a record and is on the sex offenders register.
Well, I think that's reasonable. But I think if the person is employed by an agency, they would be doing the vital checks anyway. You would hope. You would hope. Well, yeah, that's right.
But there are certain checks that they cannot do.
That's right.
Do you think parents should know the sort of criminal history of people looking after their children?
Well, yeah, that's absolutely essential. Children are a very special commodity for parents, and I think parents have got the right to know who's living next door but one to them, you know, and that's absolutely essential. Okay. But as I say, getting back to my first question, I just hope the taxpayers or anybody else for that matter didn't end up paying his fares all over the world, you know.
I think you'll find that they did not. So I hope that's lifted your day for you.
OK, sir.
All right, mate. Good on you. 0161 228 2255. The plan to renationalise railways, or the call to renationalise railways at the Liberal Democrats conference in Bournemouth has failed, and they've decided against it. We're not going to renationalise them, say the Lib Dems, which I'm sure is a relief to the railway company, who were sitting there thinking, oh, my God, the Liberal Democrats are going to be in government next time. We'd better sit and wonder what it is they decide. There again, it might be entirely different. They might be sitting there thinking, so what? It's just a talking shop. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And you can text, of course, on 07786 206 951.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Pay As You Drive gets a mention today. The Lib Dems have been talking about it. The Lib Dems seem to think that it'll be a sort of motorised poll tax, was one thing that was said. People will not tolerate a Pay As You Drive scheme, which, when you're thinking about it, is utter buffoonery, because we already have a Pay As You Drive scheme. It's called fuel duty. That's a pay-as-you-drive scheme. It's a phenomenal amount of money paid every year by motorists just to drive their car, and you pay it by the mile on the basis of it's charged on the fuel. So you pay, the further you go, the more you pay, whether you're a taxi driver required to drive 24 hours a day, a long-distance lorry driver, or maybe Lecklethwaite the Sunday afternoon, should I take the car out to the cake shop? It doesn't matter. You pay as you go. But that's the thing that's going to stop us all, apparently. That's what's going to get everybody crabby. A national road pricing scheme came a step closer yesterday. I mentioned this to you yesterday. Came a step closer yesterday with news that trials will start within 4 months. 7 firms will take part to help local councils test the technology for congestion charging. The trials will use volunteer drivers using cars with tags, which will be read by roadside sensors and satellite tracking. It's here already. Critics claim it will lead to motorists paying up to £1.84 per mile on the busiest roads in the rush hour. Transport Secretary Ruth Kelly appeared to have put a national scheme on the back burner in March when she admitted the public had not been persuaded by the need for it. Shadow Transport Secretary Theresa Villiers said yesterday she should drop it now. Well, we, of course, have our own opportunity to consider road pricing of a sort, a very limited road pricing, but road pricing nonetheless, with the congestion charge. But there are schemes afoot which say that whatever we decide in this area, the government will make a bigger decision. The government are commissioning these trials up and down the country, and they will make a bigger decision. And it could be that whatever we vote, and frankly, I hope you do vote, but whatever we vote in December, that congestion charge will be decided upon nationally by central government, which I suppose that's how it should be. But that's what the implication is, because clearly, if the trial goes ahead, and it looks like it's going to, and if the trial is successful in these other parts of the country, and the government rarely holds a trial of a system and at the end of it says, we had a go at that, didn't work, we're not having it. They usually say, yeah, we've tried that, it worked, we're having it. I can't think of an occasion when a trial of that kind of thing happened and the thing was slowly allowed to die, as it were. No, what happens is they try them, and then they say, yeah, that's a brilliant idea, because the people who make the decisions, they, of course, are already committed to it. Otherwise, they wouldn't, in the first place, have had the trial. So they have the trial of congestion charging electronically with gadgets fitted to the motor car and the like. That's what they'll have. And then at some point they'll decide, OK, well, that's done awfully well, hasn't it? And then we'll get that phrase that we like to hear so much from politicians. It will be rolled out across the country. And it will be eventually in the construction and use regulations for vehicles, in that if you want to make and sell a vehicle in the United Kingdom, it will have to have one of these gazoobies on it, so that the gazoobi can charge whenever you go into the relevant cities. Yeah. So congestion charging is on the way, whatever the vote in December, it would seem. Chris says, yes, I agree with you, Alan. If cross-country trains can get away with treating their passengers like animals for maximum profit on a monopolised line, why not? Why not? And then he says, I suspect with more than a sliver of irony. Never mind. I suppose the congestion charge will solve all these ills. Did you read that in the paper this morning, or was it yesterday morning? That it is now thought that the design of the modern train, and frankly I've complained about the seating in modern trains more than once, it just isn't comfortable. And they're now saying that the design of the seating in the modern train could cause deep vein thrombosis. Well, of course, they did say that the railways could cause that, and the people that were saying the loudest were sock manufacturers who managed to sell idiots dirty, great, big, thick, knicker thickness socks so that their legs wouldn't die when they were on the plane. And, of course, the answer comes back, well, nobody did die, so the socks must have worked. Whatever happened to deep vein thrombosis from flying? Seems to have gone away. Never mind. They've moved it to the trains. Just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Rebecca Crabtree.
There's been another increase in the annual rate of inflation. It rose to 4.7% last month, up from 4.4% in July. The increase was largely down to a rise in domestic energy bills. And if you live in the Hillgate area of Stockport, you're being warned to keep your windows and doors closed, following a fire at a chemical factory this morning. Greater Manchester Police have unveiled their new helicopter today. The new chopper is equipped with the latest high-definition daylight and thermal imaging camera systems that will be able to provide high-quality images of offenders in action. Manchester's weather cool and breezy today with a high of just 15 Celsius.
Why didn't they just put the new camera on the old helicopter? They could have saved about £6 million.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Let's take a quick look firstly to the A49 in Wigan, and there's an awful lot of traffic congestion around because of an accident between the M6 Junction 25 Bryn and Poolstock Lane. The inside lane of the two is closed off after a vehicle collided into a tree. And if you're heading in the Stockport area, Hempshaw Lane is closed in both directions because of a building fire at a commercial property nearby. So it's been closed between Wellington Road South and Offerton Lane. Fire service and police in the area are advising local residents to stay indoors and keep doors and windows closed. And if you can update me further on the traffic situation where you are, then call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Bill Rice.
Michael Carrick is almost certain to miss the start of Manchester United's Champions League defence. That's after suffering a foot injury at Liverpool on Saturday. Dimitar Berbatov was also a surprise absentee from the start of training this morning. His knock, though, isn't thought to be as serious. Cristiano Ronaldo is expected to be on the bench, though, against Villarreal after training with the squad, whilst Paul Scholes is suspended. That's after his sending off in the Super Cup. And despite appearing to have a relatively straightforward group, Ryan Giggs says they'll settle for maintaining their good home record against Villarreal.
You know, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it you know, it does give you upper hand, especially because it's a home game as well. You know, you look to win your home games and maybe nick another victory away from home, and that usually enables you to qualify.
Tonight, Steven Gerrard and Fernando Torres should be fit for Liverpool's Champions League opener in Marseille. Chelsea play Bordeaux at Stamford Bridge with Michael Ballack set to return. Didier Drogba is suspended, though, after his sending off in the final against United last season. The former Manchester City chairman Francis Lee has rejected claims that the takeover of the club is a bad thing for the game. The Abu Dhabi United Group, with resources running into the hundreds of billions, is in the process of buying City, but Lee says critics should be more worried about other takeovers.
We've seen 2 or 3 huge clubs being bought on debt. That's not good for the game.
when the fans are having to stump up to pay the interest on the debt to buy the club. This is not a deal like this. This is a deal where they paid the cash, and when they buy a player, they'll pay the cash. It's as simple as that, because they can afford it. So that if you've got 2 or 3, 4 people running clubs and they can afford to do that, it's got to be good for the game.
City have also ruled out signing the Brazilian World Cup winner Ronaldo. Oldham Athletic are setting the pace in League One so far after 5 wins in their first 6 games. That's taken them 3 points clear at the top of the table. Next up is a trip to Hartlepool, but manager John Sheridan knows his side will make the journey brimming with confidence.
They play good football. I watched Hartlepool against Cheltenham. Possibly the result was a bit false, but they play good football and they moved the ball around brightly, so it'll be a very hard game, but we've got to go there believing we can win the game. If we don't at this moment in time, we never will, so I'm expecting again another very hard game, but a game what I think we can win.
Oldham have striker Matty Wolfenden back in training after a thigh injury. Stefan Stam has also recovered from a groin strain. Europe's Ryder Cup team arrived in Louisville, where a clean-up operation is still underway after the tail end of the hurricane caused considerable damage to the course. Practice will start today, but Captain Nick Faldo says he hasn't made up his mind yet about the opening pairings.
We want to see how we're all playing and how everybody's, comfort levels are, all sorts of things. And, as you know, I've got a 12-man team, I can only put 8 out. So, and the first day's foursomes. So, obviously, it makes sense. I'll be looking for who the best foursome teams are. So that's game plan, and there'll be lots of game plans in the next few days.
Lewis Hamilton admits he can't afford to make any more mistakes if he's to win his first Formula One title. The McLaren driver leads Ferrari's Felipe Massa by 1 point ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix, but he says this time he'll be better prepared than he was last year.
I'm going there this time, and I've experienced it before. I know it's not going to be a shock to the system. Having done already a season in Formula One, I think it prepared me for this year. So the last 4 races, I feel a lot more comfortable in what I have to do and knowing what I have to do. But like I said, it's going to be very tough.
Great Britain has won its 100th medal at the Paralympics in Beijing. It came when Shelley Woods took the silver medal in the 1,500 metres wheelchair race. Lee's Heather Fredrickson has been looking back on a very successful games. The City of Salford swimmer has won a gold, 2 silvers and a bronze, and she says it's been a great but tiring experience.
Towards the end of the week, I think I was just running on adrenaline, really. But yeah, I've had an awesome games. I can't complain with anything that I've done, out of the 5 swims I did, I got 4 PBs and 4 medals, so I did really well.
If the heroics of Great Britain's cyclists at the Olympics and Paralympics got you interested in the sport, then some of the medalists are back home and competing at the Manchester Velodrome tonight in the National Track Cycling Championships. It's hoped gold medalist Victoria Pendleton will be one of the stars on show, and it all gets underway at 7 o'clock.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
They beat Leyton Orient at the weekend, and now Stockport County are back in League One action against Northampton at Edgerley Park tonight. We'll have regular reports from 7:45.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Excellent. I'm going to read you an email. It's quite long, but I think it's interesting from a number of perspectives. We often hear about crime, this crime's happened, and you think, oh, that's horrible, and you move on. But we forget that for every, even minor crime, there's repercussions for those. Somebody's life is interfered with, if you like. Somebody's life has to change. Somebody has not necessarily a horrible experience, it's just that the repercussions of the event are such that they ripple ever outwards. And this is from someone who doesn't want me to give his name, so I won't. A few weeks ago on your programme, you made reference to a yob who died while driving a stolen car, and you said you couldn't feel any sympathy. Well, I'm with you. After a spell out of work, I managed to find a job with a fantastic package, including a rather nice company car, which the company purchased for me, together with a laptop. And one night, my wife had gone out with a friend and said that she'd ring me when she was ready to come home and I'd pick her up. I settled down to watch the telly, and about 9:45 she rang and asked me to pick her up. I went to the key rack that was in the hall, where we put all our keys, so we always knew where they were, and the rack was empty. I thought my wife must have taken the keys and mine must be upstairs where I'd changed my trousers. I went upstairs, couldn't find them anywhere. At the same time, I glanced out the bedroom window and guess what? Yes, the drive was empty. Not only had my car gone, but my wife's too. And if you've experienced this, it's impossible to explain the feeling in your stomach. The thieves had broken in through the back door, walked into the kitchen, taken the keys and removed both cars. So my wife had to get a taxi home while I rang the police, who arrived within the hour. By now, it was around 11. As the house keys were also on the rack, the policeman suggested we get an emergency locksmith to change the lock, so we'd have to stay up all night in case the thieves returned. We did, and it cost me £440, which after my excess, 30%, I got back off the house insurance. But then it started to sink in exactly what was in my car. All the things that the new company had bought for me. Laptop, sat-nav, bank book. They were all in the car, together with numerous personal items. Then came the morning. I had to tell the director of the firm what had happened. Fortunately, he was very understanding, told me to hire a car, build a company, until they could sort out another one. To cut a long story short, my wife's car was found in Wythenshawe 2 weeks later with every panel bent and the insides of a shop till on the back seat. And my once immaculate car was found after a high-pursuit chase on Kingsway in Burnage. The driver said he bought it knowing it to be stolen, therefore avoiding the charge of breaking and entering. He was disqualified from driving at the time, and then received an additional ban with 6 months suspended sentence. As I lie in bed at night, I swear I can still hear him laughing. We now have an ultra-modern alarm fitted and sensors on both front and back doors. Both sets of keys come to bed with us each night. They've turned their home, if you like, into a mini prison. Yeah, the criminal, he got another ban from driving, having already disregarded the one he had. And probation. They got a prison sentence. They now lock every door. They now live within an alarmed area. Just a thought. 0161 228 2255. We have a new police chief. Do you think anything will change?
Please welcome back to the floor.
Strictly Come Dancing is back.
My pulse is racing.
You glimmer, you shine.
It's diva time!
With 16 couples battling it out to be this year's champions, it's bigger, better and tougher than ever.
Let battle commence.
Saturday night at 6:10 on BBC One.
I hate myself for liking that. It's quite fun to watch. You wouldn't want to watch it every week, but every now and then. I know, I said. I think the police are buying a new helicopter so that the old one doesn't drop on your head one night while you're asleep. It was getting old like the rest of it. Old? Old? It's not old. And what's happened to that plane? You remember that plane they got that'll go dead slow? Have they still got it? I've never seen it. Well, I saw it. When they first got it, it was out all the time, but I don't think it comes out to play much now. Have they still got it? Does anyone know? You know the plane with the dead wide wings, and it can go really, really slow. Yeah, it can't hover like a copter, obviously. Anyway, he says, does Ace, we need to get some new coppers as well. Ones that can run and look fit, rather than the ones they've got now who look like they've eaten all the pies and drunken most boozers dry. Oh, dear. Ian in Knutsford, next will be sensors on the side of the road that pick signals from a gadget in your car that will know if you've been speeding. Remember, you heard it first from Ian in Knutsford. It's already here. Well, they're already talking about it. I mentioned the the gadget, the electronic reedy gadget thingamajig. Well, we've got more than that. Now we've got Big Brother control on all cars to stop speeding, according to the Daily Express. Therefore, it must be true. Plans to fit speed limiters in cars were condemned yesterday as more Big Brother law. Trials of the limiters, which prevent drivers travelling over the speed limit, have been hailed a success. It's claimed the satellite-linked gadgets could reduce fatal accidents in the long term by 42%. So hardly any at all. Roger Lawson of the Association of British Drivers, self-appointed, said this government loves Big Brother legislation that lets it tell us what to do. If it was mandatory, it would be a pernicious erosion of civil liberties. Presumably the civil liberty is demanding is the civil liberty to drive fast and crash into children, making sure they're dead. Well, no, come on, be honest. If you run a kid over, you want to do the job right. We support people wanting to do the job right on this programme. We're very, very keen on efficiency. And I think the man is right. If you're going to take the trouble to run over a kid, then you should do it in such a way that the kid's dead. Why mess about with injuries? Why? No, come on, don't be silly. Why mess... You don't want some crippled kid, do you? A dead kid's surely better. If you're the driver of the car, for a start, the witness is dead. Well, that's what he seems to be saying, but maybe I misquote him. Maybe I misunderstand what it is he's saying, but when he says, we demand our civil rights, it would appear that the civil right is demanding is the civil right to break the law when driving, the civil right to speed. Now, I'm not saying I support the idea of limiters on cars and electronics taking control of it if you decide to go over the speed limit, but to say that it would be an infringement of our civil liberties is like saying, well, not being able to have sex with any woman you see the fancy of in the street is a restriction of my civil liberty. Feel like a bit of nookie, she looks nice, let's have her. What do you mean she doesn't agree? Just smack her over the head with a billiard ball and a sock. Up till now we called it rape, but now we're talking about our civil liberties. I have the civil liberty to have sex, surely, and just because she's not keen, and that seems to be the case for many, just because she's not keen, why should I have to put up with that? What about my civil liberties? The man's a prat. During trials... If only you could try him. During trials in Leeds and Leicestershire, motorists were said to feel safer with the limiters and paid more attention to pedestrians and other drivers. How does having a speed limiter make you feel safer? I don't understand. Because if you don't feel safe when you're going fast, go slower. It's just me, isn't it? It is, it's just me. If you don't feel safe when you're going fast, go slower. Simple. Absolutely simple. Such is life. 0161 228 2255. The man whose car was stolen demonstrated everything you should do if you want your car stolen. He left keys hanging on a hook, clearly visible, sat-nav and various other goodies in the car. Surely it was only a matter of time, says Pete. Pete, if your car is stolen, it is never, ever, ever, never, ever your fault. If your car is stolen, it is always, on every occasion, without question, inevitably and incontrovertibly, the fault of the thief. I have walked past cars and looked into them, 'cause you do, and seen interesting-looking parcels and wondered what they were, but I didn't take them, 'cause I'm not a thief. No, honestly, I've seen things lying in the street. When people have been unloading their car, they've taken the shopping out and put it down, and then gone into the house, presumably with the kid, and forgotten the shopping. I didn't steal it. I didn't take it. It wasn't mine. And had I taken it, the fault would have been mine, not that of the poor soul who left it there. What I actually did, 'cause I'm a hero, was I went and knocked on the door of the nearest house and said, "There's a load of shopping outside." And the woman went, "Ah!" and ran out and grabbed it. Might not have been hers. She might have nicked her neighbour's shopping with me as an accomplice. But I hate this. The police do it all the time. They're crackers. But the police, they come to your house when you've been burgled and they say, You haven't got locks on your windows. I don't need locks on my windows. What I need is the person who stole me goods to be caught and locked up. I don't need a lecture off you, you garmless get. No, I don't. I get robbed. It isn't my fault. Is it? No, it's the fault of the thief. If the police had their way, we would all live behind bars. We'd all have electric fences. If the police had their way. Why? Because they could sit on their fat asses in the canteen drinking coffee and would never have to trouble themselves. They'd never have to try and solve the crime. No, we should all protect ourselves. We're just a day away from the caveman. We're just a day away from all having guns and shooting all that trouble to walk past our front gate. Why? Because the cops can't catch criminals. See you tomorrow.